you take the ball and you lay on it in your most vulnerable areas. And if you can meet the chaos of the pinpoint, like, because again, it's like picking a lock, and it's like pinpoint accuracy, like GPS location on your body within you, where that trauma lies and that specific angle. Like, if you can find that thread with the ball and you can meet that chaos with absolute acceptance, and you breathe into it and you spend time on it, you will let it go.
Welcome to What I Meant to Say. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, founder of Be Better Media and a mom of 4, passionate about human connection. Throughout my journey, I have experienced many What I Meant to Say moments. But since life doesn't give us do-overs, I've created a space to reflect and tell our stories again, with a little more grace for ourselves and the hope that we can help others and be better for having listened. Welcome to What I Meant to Say. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and I'm here today with Josh Parish. He's a coach and real estate entrepreneur, and with a tremendous generational healing story that I'm really excited to dig into. So thanks for coming.
Appreciate you having me.
I was really drawn to your story and how you have used your life story to turn struggle into strength, and the way that you inspire others to better health and longevity, and all the while having a real estate career. And kind of seems like through your story you've done it all, but in that early part of your life, I was really drawn to the way that you had it seems like a really crystallizing view of what was going on around you. And could we start there and go back a little bit, and you tell the viewers about your earlier life?
Yeah. So growing up, born in the southeast portion of Alabama, very, very bottom, good old country folk. That was my family. And my mom, she was the hot young thing in town. She was 20. Dad was 35 and real estate entrepreneur doing his thing. Big fish in the the town that sat just about 20 miles away. And didn't really know my dad till I was 20 or so. But, I had a great stepdad, and we moved around every couple of years. Not that he was in the military. He was rising in the ranks of a retail store. And, just being from simple farm folk, I mean, even though everybody was really hardworking, just the more complex, deeper thoughts, it never really was prevalent in conversation. So, moving around and being a fat kid, because my family loved to feed me. We all love to eat, but I would just happen to be the one to get fat, because I really like to eat more than everybody else. It was a very, very stressful time. And, my original dad, he was a very deep thinker, very smart man. But, and that's where a portion of, obviously we're 50-50, mom and dad, but the stress from moving around, the stress from being the new kid, and, that created just a lot of internal stress on me. And that made me have sleep paralysis multiple times per week, probably more often than not, 3, 4, 5 times a week. The sleep demon lays on you. And this was like age 3, 4, 5, and all the way up till, high school. And, stress is, it made me think about, death and perception. And I was asking these deep questions to my family, only just on occasion, just because I knew that they couldn't answer the questions. And so really, I just had to deal with that internally myself, because I couldn't go to anybody for help. And it forced the wild man in me, so like
that's really, really fascinating, because what I hear there in so many ways is like you're a super highly sensitive soul, and also when you blend that with the masculine way of dealing with stress, there's a lot there that was coming in for you with people that maybe weren't as loving as they were as loving as they could be, but couldn't really grasp the depth of what you were going through, even as a child.
Oh yeah. The family support was there in terms of like, I could go and lay my head on my grandma's lap at any time, and they tell me they love me. But in terms of like processing what I was actually going through, and this was the early 90s. So did anybody really know what I was going through? Not that it was non-existent on the earth, but just around where I was, it was just like, oh, like it was a bad dream. That's something like, it's very, Yeah, it was very dismissive.
Tell me a little bit more about that sleep paralysis. Like, for people that don't know what that means, can you define it, and then tell me a little bit what it feels like?
Sleep paralysis is, so you lay down and your body can't move, but you're awake. You can open your eyes and it feels like something's on you. Like, and I don't know, I never woke up with scratches or anything. It wasn't anything like that type of situation, but feeling a presence of something in the room with you, and your mind is completely capable. You can think about things. And I just know the entire time that I had sleep paralysis, I was just praying to get up. Like, let me up, let me up, let me up. And that's scary to deal with when you're a child. And ultimately, like, I know once in a blue moon, I'll get sleep paralysis now, and it still wigs me out. Like, I still, same thing. I don't stay in the same room. I have to get up and switch rooms, and then I'll go back asleep, and I'm just like, whatever you are, don't follow me in here. So, yeah.
Wow. It's intense, especially knowing how important sleep is. You and I were just talking before we started about the Aura Ring, and knowing, how sleep is pretty much like the foundation of our health. So when you're not sleeping and getting that good sleep, it's scary on a health level. It's scary on a spiritual level. There's a lot there.
So many benefits to a good night's sleep. And it's really where you process all the traumas and emotions and the things that you've taken in from the day prior. I mean, and if you're scared to go to sleep, I mean, you can't be scared to go to sleep. Like, I mean, you can, but you have to do it. Like, it's crazy.
Yes. It's part of being human, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a struggle. So tell me how did you come through those years and then get to where, how'd you spend your days? How did the people around you, as you were realizing what you were dealing with, how did that transform?
Well, I had the opportunity to move around a lot growing up. And so I didn't really have a network of friends to talk with, but in terms of like perception and seeing that the adults that knew what they were doing really didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they were operating as best they could, but realizing that, hey, adults are humans. I realized that I could really recreate myself in any way, wherever we went. And, it gave me just I guess it's a deeper insight on just I'm like, whoa, like this is, every time I talk about it, it's kind of mind blowing, but no, just like reality shifts in minuscule ways, and your perception on things, it really, it pretty much dictates the outcome of things. I mean, you can really position people around you to do things, just by the way that you present a topic. So, but in terms of how I coped with it, I mean, I was just a kid that liked to play ball. But I knew that psychologically I was a lot different than other people. And you can only let out so much, because, I mean, moving every year or so and being able to recreate my story, I knew that if you said one thing, then people were going to identify and define you by that. So, then I was like, okay, well, I said this at this point at this school or this person. Now they think of me like this. So now we're leaving. So I know not to say that again going forward. And I've been habitual with recreation of myself for forever. They say like every 7 years, people have this, seizure of like, I'm going to change. I'm going to be somebody new now. I go through that every 12 months. It's insane. So I've literally had so many deaths of prior versions of myself. And I teach people, I teach my clients, like, you are defined by the stories that you tell yourself, and you either have to work through those stories or you have to retell the story in a different light. So.
Wow. That's an awesome way to put reframing. I totally get that from a coaching perspective. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about the, like, redefining yourself, and every 12 months, that's intense.
It's extremely stressful, because I mean, like, and now I have acquaintances. I do have some friends, of course, and people, when I go out, I mean, I'm socially, accepted. I'm a butterfly in terms of, like, people love to talk to me. and I'm more interested than interesting, you know, so that's the whole, like, being socially
Huge.
Yeah, so I mean, I get around just fine, but yeah, I try not to talk to too many people that know me often, just because I'm like, nope, you know, old version of Josh, that's going to keep me from where I'm going. So yeah, I know that's kind of not a great way to look at relationships, but you really are a composition of the stories that you tell yourself and the stories that are told to you about you. So,
oh gosh,
yeah,
I could not agree with you more on that. I often watch. It's something that I've realized through my own healing process, that those stories that people tell you growing up when you're young, that there is something to that. You begin to inhabit that character. If someone says you're shy or you're outgoing or you're an introvert or extrovert, and you take that on because it's being accepted around you. But shedding that is huge. And I often watch parents, and even in coaching parents, I'll say, like, it's our job to help them discover who they are rather than tell them who they are. And that is powerful. I hear that, you know, in your story. And I'm really curious if you had to describe these reinventions and the new pattern, you know, shedding the old and turning towards the new. Could you kind of give a couple different examples of the versions of yourself, things that you've been and things that you've shed or embraced?
Yeah. So if you go back on my Facebook, you know, I started, you know, Facebook 2009. I've got a solid dozen plus looks that I've always, you know, I've changed up. You know, I'd be a model, you know, with long hair, you know, and 195 pounds, or then I'd be 240 with a nose ring and shaved head and look just like I was gonna, you know, a berserker, you know, just gonna go mess somebody up. You know, then I got like my hippie version. I've got my business version of myself. I got my, you know, fitness, you know, athletic version of myself. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many different portions of me. And then, like, if I get a girlfriend, you know, they might call me like a sociopath or something, because they're like, you're never the same with anybody. And it's like, well, you have to kind of cater to your audience of who, because I've had so much success with training people because I connect with them on such a deep level. And then it's like we're in a bubble, you know, like it's an energy exchange. And, you know, I don't do personal training anymore, but this was the best example. Like in the gym, nobody else mattered. And we were always doing like unique exercises. So people were looking in, and people would usually be self-conscious coming into the gym because they, you know, they're getting a trainer to, you know, to walk you through exercises and whatnot, and especially doing weird exercises that other people aren't doing. You know, they would even heighten the self-consciousness or self-awareness and like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. But I would create a bubble of it's just you and me. And like, this is what you should be doing. So, and I just haven't seen a lot of people be able to do that. But I mean, I know people can, but yeah, so.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And you do have, I mean, we're just on Zoom and you can feel like you do have a very clear energy. And yet I'm trying to, and you have, your inner world seems very deep, and like you've been in your own mind a lot. You understand yourself very well. And yet to have all of those different, like, for lack of a better word, personas that you say, you know, you can take those out into the world and to fit in. How do you make sense in your mind of your deep inner world versus all of these going out into the world to be whatever version of yourself?
I am alone most of the time, just because my mind moves very, very fast, a lot faster than my mouth. And I don't want people to tell me that I'm not authentic, because I do change so often. But, you know, I mean, I'm just here to inspire and to connect. And I do that best, you know, either on stage or one-on-one, like in a group setting. I do go out and I can be the life of the party, but it's so taxing on me, because I'm always worried about other people's experience. And I can see how people are superficially handling the moment, but then I can see it in their face and their mannerisms, like if they're really present or not. And then, and because like I'm the ultimate party host, because I make sure that everyone feels appreciated for being there, and then they have a novel experience while there. But I'm running at a party, just like it's crazy, and I don't have any option to do anything different but that. And I forget who wrote the book, but Bren Brown or something like that. But anyway, codependence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a friend that told me, like, Josh, you're codependent, like terribly codependent, and I probably am, because I do subscribe to the overfilleth the well. You know, if somebody's pouring into you, then I'm supposed to pour in 200%. You know, and I tend to overgive in my relationships, and then I can kind of be. I mean, I do get a little upset if people don't replenish the well like I do. I mean, I know that people aren't going to necessarily do it like me, but yeah, I'm one to subscribe to, like, you got to maintain the relationship by over giving to that
Interesting.
person.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that, to me, what I hear in there, like, how do you manage burnout? Because when you're over giving, you know, that there is a prescription for, like, where you say enough's enough and I got to get out of here.
Well, I'm very, very choosy with who I spend my time with, for sure. Because I mean, I don't have the ability to just go hang out. Like I won't do it. I don't do small talk. And I mean, most of my relationships have ended because they're like, Josh, you're too much. Like you are too much, because I have a merciless scalpel. I can pick apart the best of the best. And I mean, I'd be nice about it, but at the same time, like, I'm hell on a contract. That's why I'm really good in real estate and terms and like negotiations. And it's just all these micro things but
I feel like you have a really important message for highly sensitive people.
I am highly sensitive, even though I don't want to admit it, but yeah, I'm pretty sensitive to folks and to things.
The energy in the room, but in so many ways, it seems like you've learned to use that for good and you know, to produce in the world, to find a purpose, to fill yourself up. But do you ever feel like the highly sensitive, does it become too much in this day and age, or have you figured out how to manage it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a burden. I mean, it's a gift and a curse, you know, because I mean, there's everything's got its negative aspects. So, I mean, because I mean, if you're one of the best in the world at something, then your other realms are just crumbling around you. Like, there is no number one that has a good life. Like, I'm not to say it, but yeah.
The cost of greatness.
I just have to remind myself, like, hey, you know, you don't think like other people, but I have the opportunity to really do something wonderful while I'm here. And it's just like, do I want to go be like numb and average? And I don't know, would I feel like I lived my life in a great manner? And it's like, no, like I've tried myself to sleep, especially all throughout school, just wanting to be popular, wanting people to love me. And now, I mean, I know that, you know, people will give me the time of day and talk to me and yeah, they like me, but will they invite me to the party? It's like, I don't know, just because I won't go. But then I don't really jive in that fraternity type setting. Like, I'm a Freemason, right? And but I just don't like that fraternity, that fraternity type situation. The whole, like, and I'm a leader, you know, but I don't go hang out with the boys. Like,
so what do you say? That's such a powerful message, I think, even to the next generation right now, because this world of social media and constant comparison that we're living in, it's one thing for adults, which we feel it too, but I think this next generation coming up has it even harder than we do, because they've always had that comparison in their face. And knowing that we have that desire to be liked and loved and be popular, how have you come through that? And what would your advice be to them about what you've learned about being popular?
Or at least back in the day, you're just competing against like Mr. Jones down the street that got the new Buick or something, right? And, you know, the big fish in the small pond. But now, I mean, it's just so in your face about, like, hey, this 12-year-old making $1 million a month, and like, it was like
Totally.
A 10-year-old girl could make me feel bad, but like, like, itching a compliment, so really, and it's tough, but just doing what you can with what you got, and really just try to know that people just, it's all clout on the internet. Now there's a lot of great things out there. It's an awesome tool, but yeah, you can't compare your story to somebody else's. I mean, that's just, at the end of the day, I know it's cliche, but some people are born on third base. Some people, just have the juice and can go a lot faster in some things than you. Like, yeah. I mean,
it's so true. I have those conversations with my kids all the time, and the starting line is not equal. It's not the same for everybody. Yeah. And learning how to, I do think that that's one of the greatest things about coaching, is helping people find their unique gifts, because it's already within them. It's just often it's so hard for us to see it on our own. And I do think that's one of the greatest things about coaching, is that discovery that people find when they just building confidence in such small things, right? I mean, working out, or, the way that you're able to hold a conversation or do a job, a simple job, not $1 million a year job, but just like realizing that, like, it's all built in the small moments, and not these highlight reels that everyone's watching these days,
Yeah, those small incremental wins, they generate the momentum needed to carry you through times that maybe you don't feel like, being strong. But if you've generated so much self-belief through showing up for yourself, then it's just, then it's in your being. So, and then by creating that being, the other people, your network, will, tell you that story of like, hey, that's who you are, and that's going to help you along. So, but it is having that eye of the samurai, like, they can identify like 100 weapons in the room or whatever. It's like figuring out how you can win in the moment wherever you are. And that's huge on how I coach people is, it's not necessarily, you're not going to be in a bubble and everything's going to be, perfect. So you have to figure out, one, it's not what to think, it's how to think. And if you can figure out, how you can win in the moment at all times, then, you're going to go great places.
Yeah. Amen. If you don't mind, I'd love to go back a little bit and talk about, your relationship and what you learned through your relationship with your family, and particularly your dad. I think that's just there's so much to this generational healing component. And, we love who we love. I think children are born to love their parents, and man, we still love them no matter what. I mean, parents are human. We do things that aren't great, but there's a lot in your story there, I noticed, that has helped you become the person you are today, even through the struggle. So could you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to my father, he's passed away now a couple of years ago, but it didn't necessarily end in an ideal manner, because he passed away from COVID, or he was hospitalized with it, and he had some prior health issues with his heart. But I had not spoken to him for about 3 years prior to his death, and but backtracking a little bit, met him when I was like 22, 23 years old. Called his phone number off of a billboard because, well, he had billboards in town. And you always knew he was your father? I didn't know until I was about 17. My mom and we got in a fight when I was bad drunk. And she's like, I don't know. My mom, okay, so just interject here real quick. My mom, my best friend, but also complete saboteur, like just will cut me to the bone first strike. Like we're going to get in a fight, and I'm like, I don't want to hear your shit. And then she's like, something, just the worst thing you could ever say to a person, just like instant, just like kill shot. And it's just like, and my brother's the same way. My little brother Newt, and love them both to death. But yeah, that was what surrounded me. It made us vicious, but we're extremely loving. but that's just how they fight. And I don't necessarily fight like that. You know, I mean, I know how to fight, but like, that's just, you don't go for the jugular the first shot. Now, maybe the third, but not the first. But yeah, cause I had a drinking problem in my late teens, and, you know, she's just like, you know, she screamed at me that, you know, Alan wasn't my dad and, you know, Steve was. So in a nutshell, and that was like, oh man, like that's crazy. Made sense, but like, it's like, that's just not a way to tell somebody about that. So mother's I mean, she was just extremely immature, still is, but still loving and would give me absolutely everything that she ever had laid down the road for me. So, you know, we've all got our demons. But yeah, so met Steve when I was 22, 23-ish. And, you know, I could just see it in his face in that first meeting. He's like, this is me 2.0, because we look exactly the same. Very, very deep thinkers, you know, and I was just, at that time, I was just super into bodybuilding. And by that time, he was like 60. He had blown up his hip and like, just, you know, just not physically where he wanted to be. But I just saw it in his face. It's like, oh man, like, I knew that he cared for me since I was part of him, but I knew, like, I just could sense like, oh, like, I don't like this. And you hear about these historical stories of kings that they have their sons, especially Alexander the Great, his dad, like, they despised each other. And Alexander the Great surpassed his father's greatness. I mean, because, well, Alexander the Great's dad was a drunk, and, you know, Alexander the Great conquered the world by the time he was like 30 something. So, you know, just like, and my dad actually, he sabotaged me multiple times throughout my life. He always gave me good advice. And even in his absence, because I internalized like a firm father figure within me, because I would go and seek counsel with myself, as crazy as that sounds, but I would talk myself in different voices to like, okay, this is how you should process this. And I would come to the right answer, you know, or I wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, at least a half a dozen times in my life, I uprooted a career and a life from just around the United States, because Steve and I were going to do some kind of business. And I always wanted that acceptance from my dad. Like in my late 20s, 27, 28, 29, like, I was probably obsessed with acceptance from my father, even though I never got it. And I don't like to admit it, but yeah, I mean, I was obsessed, and like, it crippled me. It really did. Even though like I'm not physically, but, and actually I do have some on my masculine portion. Like, I've got some like physical like issues because I have unprocessed trauma, and I'm working on it. But yeah, just, you know, just because they're your parents doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to have your best interest at heart. And even if they do have their best interest at heart, there's still things that they're not telling you in the back of their mind. Like, there's always details. There's always ulterior motives. There's always something that maybe they can't display, or they're ashamed to tell you. But yeah, I mean, and every single time, like, Steve and I, we never got any kind of business going. And I would completely quit a job, break up with a girlfriend, be on the road to Alabama. And if I didn't actually make it to town, within a couple hours of me, you know, trailer in tow, like, it's just not going to work out this time. And it's like, and I just was like, how many times I'm going to let this happen? You know, how many times you will grab an electric fence before you learn your lesson? And, you know, the last time that occurred, I uprooted my life, living in Kansas City. And even though I wanted to move back down south, you know, he had promised me a spot in one of his strip centers for me to start my like healing dojo. And he's like, yeah, man, that sounds great. You know, like, get that going. And I pulled up to his gym, and I got out, and I was like, hey, Steve. And like, him and his crew were going over there to put a sign on my space, but it was a tobacco market. Like, it was a tobacco shop. And I'm like, and I wasn't even mad at that point, but because it already happened like 5 or 6 times prior, it was just like, oh my God, like he like, I am 32 years old. Like, am I going? And I wasn't even mad, but at that day, I showed out in a manner because it was more of an act instead of a reaction. And yeah, I mean, like, I did some pretty, you know, aggressive things, you know, but at the same time, I had to do it because like, it was just had to show like, hey, like I respect myself. You know, you're not going to keep doing this. And I wish that I would have reached out, you know, before his death, because he did teach me a lot of good things over the course of, you know, when we knew each other. And even in his absence, like I still appreciate him for all the things that he wasn't there to teach me. But yeah, it's just, you know, just no matter how much you hate somebody or how much somebody's done you wrong, you still have to learn to appreciate them. And you never want to burn a bridge or end it on a note that you have to forever think about, like, well, damn, like maybe I should have, like, I could have reached out, because I mean, he was my dad and I look exactly like him. You know, it's like, well, you know, of course I would have wanted to wish him, you know, well on his death, you know, or, you know, tell him I'm sorry or something like that. So, and that was probably more for me that I should have reached out than for him. But
yeah,
I didn't get the opportunity. So whatever grudge you have, you got to put it aside and just, you know, just have some sort of clone. Because if you have that open book for the rest of your life, you're always going to think about what if.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And then I've realized, you know, through my own journey, one of the mantras I tell myself is, you know, we find our own closure. Like that concept that like what we carry, like often we're looking to someone else to bring us that closure. And I think that that can easily happen with parents and children, right? Because we are always, you know, inextricably linked and loving, almost, you know, sometimes to a fault, but that love is always there, right? But the forgiveness, you seem to have a really great relationship with forgiveness. And do you think that that's led to your growth even through really hard things?
I walked around so angry for so long, and that's just self-imprisonment. If you have to forgive and take the lessons from the losses. If you don't take lessons from losses, then they're actually losses. But if you take them as, you know, if you take it as a learning opportunity, and I'm talking about like even the worst of the worst, because who's the guy that wrote A Man's Search for Meaning? Viktor Frankl. And, you know, he was a Holocaust survivor, and he saw his family die around him. He saw thousands of people die around him, and he knew he had to survive so he could tell his story. But, you know, I don't know if he forgave, you know, what was going, like the Nazis and what had gone on around him, but that man probably didn't walk around with hatred in his heart, you know? And the only thing that you're doing, like, if you have a grudge against somebody, they don't care. You know, they don't care at all. You're the one that's affected. So, I mean, if you would walk around mad, like have a tense, you know, traps and like just shallow breath and self-conscious, just be angry, and people can feel that your energy's off just because you can't process like your anger towards a situation, well, you're just ruining your own life. And that's just me not wanting to affect my future self because I can't let go of what happened in the past. So
yeah, I can hear so much in your, you know, a lot between the spiritual world and the like meditative, you know, physiological. Have you blended a lot of the spiritual world and the physiological, you know, mind, body, spirit connection to heal?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm pretty gifted in terms of, because I am a massage therapist. I've got a license, but I call myself a wizard per se, but yeah, I can watch people like walk in a room and I'm like, oh, this is your spot, you know? And then like, well, cause I have a wrestling mat here and then I've got a massage room upstairs, but I don't do like full body stuff, but yeah, we manifest, or we have traumas that we process, and then like whatever's going on in our body, like our muscle tissues, like absorb that situation, and it kind of sticks with us. But when I work in these most vulnerable tissues, which it takes a moment to like gain that trust. But yeah, I have people create massive breakthroughs on my table, like every single time. It's wild. Like, and it doesn't matter. They could be a girl, they could be a grown man. Like they're crying on my table because there's like, oh my God, like, cause literally, yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, the mind is the body is the mind. And you could actually unlock genius through your movement practice, because like neuroplasticity and muscle plasticity, they're one and the same. And with sensory motor amnesia, sorry to throw out these big words, but we forget movement patterns. But we have the opportunity to create fine motor movements with just various portions of our body, just not our hands. And that opens up channels of our mind that are unexplored. Therefore, you think more dynamically and you're more in tune with infinite intelligence and the creator that lives within you, but also outside of you too. So, and yeah, like you can totally decide to process these traumas, but there has to be a physical aspect of it too. You can't work on mental stuff just through the mental.
So true. And I was just saying to a friend the other day that I spent a lot of my adult life, especially in the last 10 years, kind of beating up on myself saying, why do you need, and some things you can do on your own. I'm really into yoga. And as an athlete, I've always known that I feel better after I move. If I'm stuck, I go for a walk. There's a lot of things you can do on your own that don't cost any money. But, there is also body work that someone else has to be a part of. And I never knew why I was drawn to that. And it felt like, oh, you need a spa day. But the more you learn about healing, you realize it's not the spa, it's the actual unlocking of those stories from your tissues. And I feel like Gabor Mate has talked a lot about that. His books and anything I can find of his, I feel like he's just a sage. But there's so much I still feel like is not out there. I feel like we're just starting to touch on this link between body, mind, and spirit, and how it affects our immune system and our relationships and it's when you really lock into you creating your health, we don't talk enough about the things that we need to do to create health. And I can hear that. I mean, to see where you've been and where you've landed today and how you're helping people with that. If there was something you could say on that topic alone, what would you say?
You gotta explore yourself. And even because westernized medicine, even though it's done a lot of great for society, it's very one-dimensional. It's very like attack a symptom. And just because they're a doctor, they've gone through school, it doesn't necessarily mean that they know everything. So you can tell a doctor no, and no, that's not right. But yeah, ultimately, you gotta just get into the studies for yourself. And I know people don't have time, but if you just sit, but the cure is within you. Like if you have an imbalance or something going on with your body, you have the cure. And then most ailments are environmental. Like most cancers, and again, hope we don't get in trouble by the algorithms or whatever. But yeah. I mean, just there's an unofficial stat that most ailments are stress induced and environmental, and especially cancers. Because I don't know, I wasn't around a couple hundred years ago, but I guess different types of cancers weren't super prevalent a couple hundred years ago. But it's all this new chemicals and stressors, and yeah, it's
absolutely
very yeah.
Yeah. Our environment. Yeah. It's very hard. Our environment in America is very hard on our health. And I heard a statistic yesterday that only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. 12%.
I believe it.
We have a lot of work to do. And the fact that in medicine today, and if a doctor's coming through medical school, nobody talks about the effect of trauma on the body and how it affects your health. So for a doctor not to be trained, it's no wonder that there's this crop of, body workers and somatic healers and so much energy work being done out there. Maybe it's just because I know I pay closer attention to it now because I'm drawn to that too. But it just doesn't make sense that yes, Western medicine does do some good things, but the fact that there's no training on that it's mind-blowing to me.
And, it's tough because my mind always drifts to be the devil's advocate. If someone's super for Westernized medicine or Christianity, then I'm trying to poke holes in their beliefs and their knowledge. Not that it's a bad thing, but then you got your super woo-woo person of the universe. and hippie.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, I'm devil's advocate over here, you know, I'm like I'm a steak eater, but, you know, like I'm trying to I'm like, yeah, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's because like so many people dive down these rabbit holes, and yes, you want to be a master in the space, but at the same time, it's like, maybe it's a blend of both sides that we need to look at, even though to live in the middle is purgatory. Like when we look at health and wellness, like, yeah, like let's study some westernized medicine, understand what they're doing. But then on this side, like, let's study the hippie stuff. And like your answers are in the middle there. And like, cause I'm not like, if my arm's cut off, I'm not going to go eat some dirt, you know? And then like, if I have like some traumatic issues, like I'm not going to go and like say, hey doc, give me an anti-anxiety pill, you know, like I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. But, and you know, and because I've been coaching people for so long, but I've just stepped on in the online coaching space, and you know, there's a lack of masculinity in the world today, and then these new age male coaches, it's all about like, hey, work out super hardcore. It's all about motivation and just get it done. And then you got soy boys that are just like super all about like, oh, process your trauma, and their arms are like 6 inches big. And it's like, how are y'all coaches? Like, come on, like, let's blend it a little bit, you know, like.
So good. And I would love to come back to that, what you said about the lack of masculinity coming through in the healing space, because I do think I see that. And you know, the blend is different for everyone. I think everyone should be themselves. But can you elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on that? Because that's pretty genius, and I would agree with you.
Well, you know, first of all, you know, healing is I don't know, you think of mothering when you think of healing, right? And that's all well and good. And there's definitely, you know, two sides to each coin. But I mean, there's also some great male healers out there, but it's really, you have to diagnose yourself. You do want to seek, you know, out professional help and insight, but ultimately we know where we're backsliding and what we need. And, you know, there's times that you need the compression, there's times that you need compassion, and it's really up to you to figure out. You have to know enough to coach yourself a little bit. Right. But shading out of more masculinity is never a bad thing. But at the end of the day, if you're like so caught up in your head and you've already done the hardcore workout and you're still in your head, then maybe it's not going and beating yourself up more. Right. So, because, you know, you can only do so much physical practice before, you know, you just completely break down, like the point of negative. So,
yeah.
You know, sorry, I just kind of went off on a tangent and maybe didn't answer your question, but yeah, it's just, we have to really play devil's advocate more of like the coaching that we seek. And if we have, and coaching is never ending, like, but you only need to learn from one coach at the time, so you can fully process and internalize what they're saying. And if you have the hippie coach this time, then maybe you need to go get somebody that's like Stonewall Jackson the next.
Being able to take in other perspectives, that is a huge gain in life. I think that shows, you know, that's also a step on the maturation process of you know, evolving through our healing. But you hit on something there that I think the journey of going within and like learning. Do you have some tools or some tips for people? Because I think that's a really hard thing to do. And we're often looking outside for someone to help us. But I know there are things that we can do on our own. What are your favorite go-tos for the best ways we can turn inward?
I like the journaling. I have a notebook that I carry around everywhere. And I usually, you know, map out, you know, my thoughts and my plans. And then I really analyze the stories that I'm telling myself from time to time, because they tend to swirl in our heads and with no resolution, no resolution, no solution. So going within and going deep on asking, you know, why you want this specific outcome, or why is this happening, you can usually figure it out within one page. Like you're writing, and then you start to attack, like, okay, well, this happened and this happened, but I'm thinking this. And usually, I mean, for me, like in one page, in 15 minutes, I can map it out. And this teacher, it was a substitute teacher. I skipped her English class in 11th grade. And she's like, I'm not going to write you up because I know you've been written up a lot, and like, she was cool with this, but she kept me after school, and she's like, you're going to sit here and you're going to write for an entire hour. And I'm like, about what? And she's like, I don't care, but maybe you should just think about what's going on. And for the first couple of minutes, I didn't, but then it was just like, oh, I stayed an extra 10 minutes. Because I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I'm just like, wow, like the answers are within you, but you have to uncover things and if you tell this, because again, like the stories we tell ourselves, it shapes our reality and what we do. But if you had a traumatic circumstance, that you tell yourself that story, you're not working through it. You're bringing up those same feelings. You're reliving that traumatic circumstance. But if you can go and you can find those lessons to take away from it, and then maybe some alternatives of like how things could have happened if you acted differently, or, you go into gratitude and forgiveness of like the person that, you forgive that person that did you wrong, no matter what. That's a way to kill that dragon. Is because you have to be brave enough and patient enough to sit there and actually write. And so many people, they're just like, oh, I don't have the patience to sit there and write for an hour, or they're just like, oh, I can't deal with it right now. It's like, well, and I tell people that, that want to come get body work from me, it's like, yes, it's going to be painful, but the solution to your pain is through the pain. Like you have to go and deal with more pain if you want to get rid of that. So like, say you're walking around with an 8 out of 10 of pain every day. Well, let's just go ahead and let's just make that a 12 out of 10 for a little while, and let's just get over it. Like, and yeah, if you're a practitioner, you don't want to reach a 12 out of 10 on the intensity scale, but sometimes when you're ready, you're willing to do whatever it takes to get through that darkness. And I do body work, and that's what I teach people, is to actually do the body work on themselves. Now, yes, you want someone to peel out, like maybe some problem areas, but it's like unlocking a lock. It's like picking a lock, and our traumas are layered, right? So you may unlock something, and then like all of a sudden a new pain, and it's just like, oh God, it really is. It's never ending, and it's layers throughout your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I teach people how to take care of themselves, because not everybody's going to have a wizard in their, that's available.
Right.
Oh, and then even a half wizard, like maybe the massage therapist that you like is booked out for the next 2 weeks. If they're good, they're booked out. So you have like, and just know, like, if your leg hurts, well, you got 2 hands, and you can lay across something, but it's all about just letting go and just accepting, like, hey, like you're holding on to this tension in that specific area, like you're doing it to yourself. So, but yeah.
So many people don't know that, and I think it's getting into that body work. And I think for athletes, like we're taught to lock it down and like keep working harder. I tell you, the first time I laid on a yoga block and released my psoas, I was like, what the heck is that? So yeah, it's always in the blend of, like, if we're going hard one direction, coming back around and looking at, something that's, if you're going hard, looking for something a little softer. If you're way down, and you learn how to challenge yourself and build your confidence that way. So I see so much of that coming through your work. It resonates with me, and it's really, really awesome. So
this right here, all right, like this is
okay,
like the absolute like godsend of a tool. All right, and first of all, like, it's great because it's super dense. It's a batting cage ball. And this is a baseball, but there's also a softball too. And what I teach people, and you can use any instrument you want, but you take the ball and you lay on it in your most vulnerable areas. And if you can meet the chaos of the pinpoint, like, because again, it's like picking a lock, and it's like pinpoint accuracy, like GPS location on your body within you, where that trauma lies and that specific angle. Like if you can find that thread with the ball and you can meet that chaos with absolute acceptance, and you breathe into it and you spend time on it, you will let it go. Like that is the whole entire like methodology, like the secret behind everything I do is like, yeah, I can lay my hands on you and like, we'll find it. And like, I can work on you for a little bit, but I can't sit there for as long as you need me to, because that time duration is within you. Right. And like, I get tired, but if you sit there and you meditate, you lay on a ball, like it will unlock, like, and
wow.
It is absolute chaos. Like you're like, I'm being tortured, like bamboo shoots under the fingernails. Like it's wild. Like it really is.
Yeah.
Like as an athlete, you've had people like up on you, you're like, oh shit, like,
yep.
And actually like apply pressure, constant pressure, and breathe through it, and then try to just give into it. Like that's just the secret. So
I couldn't agree more, and I hope people can hear the analogy in that, how that body work plays out in our life. I mean, it's not the running away from the pain, it's the like you said, it's the going through and seeing what we learn and what we unlock. And it is an absolute parallel from our bodies to our minds to our spirit. So it's pretty cool work, and it's real. I'm inspired by what you do. I love seeing how it's run through your own life story. And one of the questions that I always ask everybody that's come on my show is, what's a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Love yourself more. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, definitely could have used some more love. I mean, I got love from other people, but yeah, I could have definitely used more self-love. And still, yeah, absolutely. I need that advice today.
Doesn't everybody? I agree with you, and it's a lifelong journey. So, and one that I can tell you're on, and it's really cool. I have absolutely loved hearing your story, and I think it can help a lot of people. So thank you so much for coming on. And I want to know, I want people to know where they can find you to connect. So can you let us know what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, my link tree, it's thejoshparish.com. And you got my Instagram, my Twitter, I'm not really ever on Twitter, but yeah, I'm pretty much always on Instagram, but everything's at thejoshparish.com.
Great. Okay. Well, your message and your life story is amazing, and I thank you so much for sharing it with us. Let's stay in touch. Really good stuff. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Wendy Jones, and this is What I Meant to Say here with Josh Parish, just here to remind you to be real, be you, and be better. Thank you for joining us on What I Meant to Say, another production of Inspired Edutainment, brought to you by Be Better Media.